Well, hello there, YouTuber-ubers and tuberettes alike around the everywhere you happen to be. Welcome. Come on in, sit down. It's a short talk in the park. That'd be your trailer park ride, I reckon. With an old guy, and we'll just have to find one after a little while now, won't we? Sometimes when you go into a restaurant, and you order something real complicated like, bacon and eggs with toast or something, and you're just waiting and so I start talking this little line in my own head that sounds kind of like, well, first you go find a chicken, then look for an egg, hope it's not fertile. Well, that'd be one way to do breakfast, I suppose. It's one of those days. Today I was once again at Cementero, which is down here what they would call a concrete mason in civilized parts of the world. But down here, there's so many of the guys that are concrete finishers that are Hispanic, and I don't know where that comes from, because their Spanish is so stout and strong, I can't penetrate it hardly. If they're talking among one another at their normal speed, I have no idea what they're talking about. I can ask for real simple things like, where's the shovel? Hey, where's the outhouse? Important stuff. Crucial, gotta have it. And anyway, so I was looking at the the algorithm, and earlier I just thought, well, I might like to tune into some of that RNC Jamboree thing, the big convention they're having, and I do want to thank the good Lord once again that Mr. Trump is here for this. I really can't imagine what this thing would have been if that Target guy had been a little bit on the ball. I heard one sniper guy mentioning, I believe it was to Clayton Morris, I hope I got that right. He said, the interviewer asked, how hard of a shot would that be at about 140 yards? And he said, I can do it with a pistol. This guy had a rifle with a telescopic sights. So anyway, that thing it's getting all stunk up. The so-called head of the not-so-secret service, we'll call them the secret gang of, was it DEI, diversity, probably equality, and maybe instigation? Anyway, the so-called leader of the security team is really set on one big goal. We need more chicks in here. It's like, excuse me, I have a little issue here. I'm not trying to sound like a male chauvinist pig and bring up, ancient woes and whatnot, but I'm just saying, you're guarding a guy who's like 6'3", 6'4", and if his heels are stuck up a little bit, he might have some fancy shoes on. He might be 6'5" all of a sudden. And you're going to shield him with a lady who stands, what, 5'5", 5'6"? What's she going to do, wear stiletto heels like that? Mr. Go-Go Gadget, remember the thing he had, the extender thingy, maybe she could put some of those on her shoes, suddenly grow, 14 inches, and be able to present her body as a shield. Well, that's a little zany now, isn't it? So, looking at this, I just thought, well, maybe I should listen to some of the convention tonight, and I just got thrown off the rails. I finally, just before I started this vid, I got over to Googly, and I asked that thing, what's the scheduled time for President Trump's speech tonight? And it wasn't real clear, but I think they said between 9 and 10:30 Central Time. So probably near the end of that. So think it might begin maybe 10-ish Central. So that's 1 hour ahead of me. That's 9 o'clock my time. I think I could, hang out, for an extra hour, stay awake, you old goon. But I'd like to listen to what the man has to say. From what I've heard, and this is all rumors, so take it with, a pint of whiskey, if you can find one. No, don't be drinking whiskey. That stuff's too strong. But I just wanted to mention that, I've heard that there's been a change in the man. And some equate it as a kind of a Christian conversion experience. I don't know whether any of that's real. But I did look in his eyes in a photo the other day, and it just seemed like there was something different about the eyes. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's just purely subjective on my part, but it could be. But anyway, I was just thinking in terms of the waiting for the speech and all that stuff, and I just thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to watch that algorithm anymore for about like another hour and a half at the soonest. I mean, I get all brainwaved in where I keep seeing the same basic posts over and over again. They just keep scrolling by in serial fashion, and it's like, there's really only 80 or 100 that I'm looking at, and then they just start over again. So sometimes I'll think to jettison out of that and, you know, go for something else like the news or something, because that'll throw you on a little bit different search algorithm, I think. And I just thought, I don't want to watch anything. So I thought, well, how about I make some of that junk that I resent so strongly? In other words, a lot of my theory, a lot of my viewpoint is that with this AI transhumanist monstrosity, which is to be put online as soon as possible, a sort of cyborg fusion between man and machine as a sort of proposed evolutionary inheritor of the earth. In other words, if from ape to man, you remember the little pictures that they keep showing him getting a little taller, if from ape to man, then from man to what? And they're supplying that answer, and it's going to be this transhumanist monstrosity, absolutely from hell. I'm not kidding you. This is about as low as you can get. This is the most dangerous cult in the world, and nobody even knows about them. It's very weird. So at any rate, when you're thinking about things, and I just so appreciate that Trump will say things that I've never heard any other politician say about the fact that there is a deep state, that there is rampant corruption in the ranks of the government, and this needs to be purged out. Law needs to be applied, penalties applied. We need to straighten this mess out. And so it's that kind of hope that he brings, kind of a courage, inspiration kind of thing. And so that's why people are so crazy about him. I mean, this is not some whooped up thing. Do you remember, are you old enough to remember the year that Bob, I called him Dole, his name was Dole, D-O-L-E, and he'd been this lifetime senator since, I don't know, 1806 or something. He was like impossibly old. Well, not exactly, I was younger then. But the point is that Bob Dole, I mean, at their Republican thing, you know, their own convention, when he won the nomination, it was like, hey, let's get excited about Bob Dole. Yeah, what a great guy. I'm glad to be on his team. You know, that kind of stuff. And that was about as excited as it got. And you take a look at a Trump meeting, people are waving their arms and they're getting into it, blowing him kisses and stuff. And this guy, he just reeks of leadership overall. And so there's questions in my mind about, I hope maybe he ought to hire his own security team and let the Secret Service be backup squad in case the real guys fail. But, you know, maybe get some serious security, because you remember the Secret Service was only feet and inches away from John Kennedy and from Bobby Kennedy when they publicly got whacked. So the agency can do all kinds of nasty things, and we don't know how far they'll go. But the agency does not work for the federal headship in Washington. The presidency, the elected officials, Congress and Senate, and then those appointed as the 12 judges. I guess it's 12, is it? Yeah, or is it 9? I don't know. I should really know that. But in other words, you have the judicial, you have the executive, and then you have the representatives, the House and Congress. When you have all of that kind of stuff, and basically all of that has gone out the window under this poodle's criminal track record here. And so people are kind of sick of the Democrat message, and a lot of people are coming to Trump just to hear something different, because this poodle guy, I guess he's going to drop out. He keeps saying he will, and then he doesn't, and then he says he will. I don't know. But the thing is that he obviously is no match for this guy. Nobody's really a match in the political field right now in America that really could compete with Donald Trump, except possibly Robert Kennedy Jr. If Biden would be thrown out and the Democrats, you know, came up with no candidate, we don't have one. Robert Kennedy and Trump, that might be an interesting race. I still think that Trump would win, but that's just me. But in other words, Robert at least would be able to draw people who can still put 2 together with the other 2 to get 4, and not have to, you know, go into a tizzy about it. When we're looking at the world and we're thinking about, you know, I want to hear some good news. I want to hear what he's, you know, all about and stuff. And so what really happens in my mind is, I think, what I'm asking for is in prayer, I'm asking for safety for him and for his family, for those around him. Because, you know, there was a guy who got nailed at that thing in Butler, I mean, he was just protecting his daughter and wife with his own body. That's all. But you know, the Trump campaign has also put together a page where if you want to donate to that family, I believe they've already got something like $3+ million donations from around the world. So it's a good thing in that sense that the family isn't just left high and dry and without a dad and a husband who just went to go listen to a political speech and ended up dead, thanks to one crooked little, yeah, sort of 4-letter word. Sorry, we're having a 4-letter word overload. And I don't know who else the other candidate or candidates were who were involved in that thing, but when you take a look at it, it's absurd beyond abstraction that the top of that roof and the top of that water tower were not obviously and first rate. Put it on the list, get somebody up there before the show starts and leave them up there with a rifle and a radio. And the thing is, it's like, how did they miss that? It would be like saying, hey, you're a plumber, can you go fix this faucet? Well, I could, but you know, the last one scared me so bad, I don't want to do it anymore. Why? What happened? Well, I went to take the guts of the thing out and it just blew up. Well, don't you mean you just forgot to turn off the water? You mean you forgot that the water pressure was still on and you're calling yourself a plumber? I've actually had helpers do that. It's funny to watch. But of course they freak out when it happens because it's like to them, it's the end of the world. Basically just get a mop and a sponge, clean it up in about 5 minutes. And it is funny watching the, you know, the antics and such. But be encouraged. I think I will tune into the speech by Mr. Trump later and hear what the man has to say, because I really think this is going to be a historic Republican thing. You know, the Democrats keep talking about, if this guy gets elected, it may be the last free election ever. I believe the last free one was in 2016, because 2020 was as crooked as the day is long, and everybody knows it. And the Democrats haven't done anything to change that crooked system. Nobody's inquired about it. Nobody's demanded change. Nobody's demanded accountability. What we wanted was a series of adding machines which could talk to each other and come up with group sums, that's all. But what they did is they made them programmable instead, so that you can preset the number, you can pick your winner before the election begins, and the machine will put out the votes that are numerically close enough, but not too far apart, that you can avoid a recall on the election, because, you know, sometimes if it's down to like 5 votes county-wide, you can ask for a recall. Well, there's a number where that number breaks off. You know, if it misses by 500, I'm sorry, you lost. And so the Democrats are, as far as I can tell, world-class champions, absolute top-notch frauds, phonies, and just absolute. Every 4 years, the dead get up to vote, and they all happen to be Democrat. And the situation is if the Democrats didn't cheat, they wouldn't have anyone in office, as far as I know. There might be some crazy outback area in California where people are so bizarre in their mind that they actually think this garbage, this socialism, makes sense, and it links right back to Marx and Satanism, actually. And the Christian answer is on the other side, saying no, the good God has spoken into this world. How? Well, he has recorded this thing called the Bible. And it's a message from on high. And what the message is about, see, and here's where I'm getting a little different, because the church is always saying, you should hear the good news. Listen to the gospel. Amen. The gospel is blessed, and you should have some. What is, excuse me, man, if your message is news, and you say it's good, what is the news? I mean, you keep just telling me, listen to the news. Hear it. Okay. What is it? And so I'm going to kind of veer off from, because you'll never hear this discussed in a church environment. It just doesn't come up. So when you have to think about things from like another perspective, and you have to look back in your life and then project forward. I remember the Nixon days. I remember LBJ and what a crook he was. There was all kinds of riots in the streets and stuff. And as about a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, I mean, I really didn't know what all that was about exactly politically, although I had the pretty good outline of it. And I really didn't have a favorite in that horse race. It didn't matter to me about Nixon or Humphrey in '68. Because when Bobby Kennedy got whacked, that basically just reduced the picture. It's okay, we can have some B-grade actor. Hey, come on over here, Hubert, I got a job for you. And so when we're looking at our world around us, we have to remember there have been times of tumult before. What he's doing is he's building courage in us that under fire, in the times when things are really getting pretty crazy, and things are starting to heat up a little bit now, the inflation is only going to go into overdrive later. The dollar is on fire, and they just won't even do anything about it. It's like they're in denial. Maybe that'll solve the problem. Boy, so things are going to get crazy. So as you're looking forward as a Christian in your life and thinking, you know, what are we going to do? What in the world? What kind of choices would be best? And that's the problem. Say we want a little grocery list, a to-do list. Do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stepwise, and bingo, you're blessed, right? We keep looking for that kind of stuff. And I guess there's this weird shadow over my head. I keep seeing that moving around. I guess that's my hand. Yeah, the sun's behind me on my left. At any rate, when we're looking at all this kind of bug out bear stuff that's going on out here, like, hey, are we going to start hurling nukes anytime soon? And you know, we've had fires and wars going on around the world, and all this corrupted politician stuff, and there's all this talk about this very well could be the era shortly prior to the coming of the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, returning to earth in what we would call our natural lifetime. And I have no problem with that. In fact, I endorse it. I honestly believe that we are in those days. Does that mean that we're going to see our way through it and really know what's going on step by step? Oh, I see right now we're on page 3. This is Revelation 4.165. That's the part of the story we're in right now. I don't do that, man. So what I do is I look at the big story, and what is the news of the story? What was the story told about? It was told about a God who created all that was, is, and ever shall be, using no previously existing material. He spoke into or out of nothing. I don't know how this is done. You'll have to ask him. He would know. But the point is that he created everything that is, was, and ever shall be, and decreed from before things what shall happen at the end. The destinies of all are already known in his mind. But we participate from our end. You see, I'm a Calvinist. We participate from our end gladly. In other words, bringing Adam to the bar, I can contribute nothing to my salvation except the corpse. And the place that we want to live at during hard times is not to follow a recipe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where we want to be in hard times is, we used to say in the 60s, but I was a little young for this, in the groove. And you can still hear people say that sometimes about like sporting things, in the groove. But in other words, there's a state of mind where you get into, or it gets into you, and you realize that he is actually living in my body right now. He knows everything about everything. And he still loves me. He loves you. He loves you because he's good. Not because you're so lovable as all that. And if you try to act all lovable, it ain't going to help you none anyhow. He knows you're a phony. And so there's a way of approaching life in hard times. And the way to see it, as far as I can tell, is to have Christ at the center of our hearts and in our spirits. We would value him above life itself. And we would really treasure, and I mean look up to embrace and value time spent with him in prayer. Learning how to interact with an invisible person, okay? But talk about a person. This guy's the person. The second one, as is, there's the Father, then there's the Son, then there's the Holy Ghost. That's one God, not three. And the Holy Ghost ain't the Son, and the Son ain't the Father, and the Father ain't the Ghost. And there ain't three gods. So at any rate, we walk in sound confession of his name. We walk in prayer. We walk seeking his assistance because we know that even though things are looking like they're going to hell in a handbasket, you know, with express delivery, he's still expanding his kingdom. It doesn't matter whether we like it or not. He will expand his kingdom, and he will gather every one of his children. He will not lose one across the age and around the world. And he's going to use people just like you and me to spread the news. The news he has come to find us, to restore us, to adopt us as children, to give us resurrection life, life from the dead. Spiritually, I was dead when I was born from my mother, and the dead spirit really didn't know a whole lot. The only thing I really knew down in my heart was that there was something really wrong with the world, and there was something really wrong with me. And I didn't know the right name for it. I used to go to this thing called a church, but God, it was awful. I mean, about as liberal as it could be. And at the time, I didn't know there was such a thing as a liberal Christian or a conservative. It never crossed my mind. And so basically, I just uniformly hated Christians as a result of meeting these people and thinking, I want nothing to do with your kind for the rest of my life. See ya. And so God and I weren't exactly best buddies. We didn't have quality time. But the idea now is that as we enter these hard times, we must enter them with a real sense of the presence of the Lord in our lives. And we do that through confession, we do that in prayer, we do that in fellowship with one another. Behold, I tell you, when 2 or 3 of you are gathered in my name, there I am also with you. So the Master is in us and with us, and he's working through us now, just a little bit. So sign up, participate. Tell him, I want to do the thing you sent me here to do before I die, and I want to do it gladly, without fear, and whatever it is. You tell me. And so in other words, we're asking our living God, teach me now in these dark times, with these strange circumstances, how to walk in wisdom and insight, because you are the source of that, and all I can do is I fear you, Lord God. And so remember to say things like that aloud. Tell yourself the truth. Don't lie to yourself, and don't sell yourself short. You don't know what you're capable of. He does. But he won't push you past what that is. We don't know what we're capable of. And that's part of what we're finding out down here, isn't it? So at any rate, I hope you guys have some rainy days where you are, because we're right on the edge of one. It's like it feels like a storm's coming, but it's awfully dry one. It's like that dry water. You know, I had thought about an idea like this. Think of a product, and it would be like, you know, you could have it in a tin can, you could have it in a plastic Ziploc, it wouldn't really matter. And it would be called powdered water. So in order to get water out of powdered water, you put the powdered water in a glass and add water. But see, this is now real water because it's got the minerals and all the salts and enzymes and whatever else that really healthy water is supposed to have. I'm clearly making things up. It's a Thursday afternoon, and by golly, this week seemed like it just stretched on and on. So I'm a little bit tuckered out, and I'm going to try to figure out what I want to eat, if anything, because I stopped and got a big old burger and fries on the way in. But that was already, that was about 4 o'clock. That was already like 4 hours ago. And I'm thinking, am I still hungry? So I got some fruit and stuff. Maybe I'll eat something like that. You guys have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And thanks for joining with us when we think about prayer. Because prayer, even though you and I have never met, and we may never meet in person, we can nonetheless pray to the same ends. And God hears his children, and he reveals his will to his prophets before he does anything. Go look it up. And so, God bless you, and have a good night. I do enjoy making these talks. It just kind of lets all the words that get bagged up, get them out. Bye.